Coming up on the Ministry of Guitar. What is the correct guitar bridge for you? Are you confused? I'm going to make it very simple. How do you cut through the noise, almost literally speaking, when it comes to pickups? There's so much information. How do you identify the right pickup for you? And finally, what I have learned about neck shapes and neck profiles over 20 years of buying, selling, and owning over 150 guitars. We're going to answer all of this in today's Ask Me Anything. So hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. My name is Utkarsh Mohan. I'm coming to you from Singapore. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. I'm very encouraged by the audience growth. It's giving me a lot of fuel, so please, thank you. Thank you for the support. So this episode of Ask Me Anything, this is number 3. It's a bit of an intermediate guitarist special. I received questions concerning pickups, more focused on Gibson. I received questions on bridges. I think also more focused on PRS though. But what I thought is there's a common thread, because when I think of the guitar world, or I think about hobbies, or I think about the guitar hobby, I'm reminded of a term. And the term, and I may be getting it wrong, the term is called the tyranny of small differences or minor differences. So what happens is that there are subtle differences between many different specs, different bridges, different kinds of neck profiles, different kind of pickups, whatever. There is so much choice today as a consumer of the guitar market that there are such small differences which are great if you know exactly what you want and you can tailor it to exactly what you like. But if you're a beginner, or even if you're an intermediate guitarist, or forget about your skill on guitar, if you're just a casual observer of the guitar market, and you want to buy something that's right for you, there is so much choice, it's overwhelming. So today's episode is not going to cover all the choices you have comprehensively, but I want to give you a framework which you can employ to hopefully help you make your choice and make things a little bit simpler. Each of these topics, pickups, bridges, and neck profile, I will make future deeper dive videos for those of you who really want to dig into the weeds. This one is a simple framework if you are beginning, if you're intermediate, or if you just want to know a little bit more and make life a little bit easier for yourself, or somebody you know who may need this. This is for them. So question number 1, what is the right bridge for you? Now, let's approach this through a multiple choice, through almost like a logic sequence where we are going to go via in different paths depending on a process of elimination. The first thing that you need to determine is whether you want a fixed bridge or a tremolo bridge. The advantages and disadvantages of both is that with a fixed bridge, it's much easier to change tunings. Generally, fixed bridges are more stable tuning-wise once you've got them in your desired tuning. But there are exceptions. We'll talk about them, and we'll talk about a different kind of fixed bridges in a second. And tremolo generally it's more difficult to switch tunings because there are springs. And the other thing to note with tremolo is that, if you're too liberal with the tremolo or a vibrato, I know it's technically a vibrato. Some people comment on that. If you're too liberal with said tremolo bar, whammy bar, whatever, it can lead to some consequences. So that's the first question. It also depends on genre, but though I don't want to pigeonhole that a certain genre needs tremolo and a certain genre doesn't. You know what you want. Now let's get into fixed bridges first. And I'm going to show you a few examples. I have some of them behind me. Some of them I'm going to use pictures, so just bear with me. I want to start off with the most famous example. This is a Tune-O-Matic style bridge. And the advantage of a Tune-O-Matic style bridge is this is what is traditional. This is what they've been using on Les Pauls. This is the PRS example. But though this is the most common kind of fixed bridge, it doesn't end here. What you can then have is you can have a one-piece fixed bridge where instead of having 2 pieces, you have a one-piece magic editing over here. And you can have this with or without saddles. And there are some cases where you take the bottom part of the Gibson bridge, of the Gibson Tune-O-Matic bridge, and you put it here. Then there is what you would call a string through, where you have a one-piece bridge, and then you have strings going through the body. You also have something that's called a hip shot style. I'm putting some photos up for you to see. That can be rather low profile. And then you have something that's used on a Telecaster, a tele bridge, where you don't necessarily have individual saddles, but you have you have a couple of them, and they're made out of brass. Now, so much choice. I know I'm not covering everything, but I think this is broad enough for most people. How do you make sense out of all of this? Here's the way I look at it. If you want a certain Telecaster kind of a sound, a certain kind of high end, nothing will get you there other than the Telecaster bridge. So if that's the twang that you're looking for, no pun intended, go for that. Now, if you're operating in a different kind of a zone, if you are more of a metal palm muter, and again, I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, I'm just telling you the utility. Then something like a hip shot bridge, which is generally lower profile, and some similar ones generally are good. Tunomatics are also okay for metal, but they tend to be a little bit high. Then, if you are looking for something that gives you a lot of very interesting sustain, in my experience, then the one-piece bridge, whether it is the PRS style or even on what they do on Gibsons with the wraparound, those are best. What is my preference? My preference depends on application. So it also depends on tuning. So honestly, my favorite fixed bridge is something like what this guitar has, but the PRS version without the individual saddles, with the pre-intonated. I like that a lot. And the reason I like that a lot is that it maximizes the contact of the string to the bridge. And all of this is theory. In reality, what it does is it just makes the guitar, to my ears, sound super sweet and sustain really nicely. I have it on a Paul's guitar. I have it on a Modern Eagle 1. I love that. Now, there's a disadvantage to that pre-intonated bridge. The disadvantage is that you can't do tunings much lower than, say, I would say drop D. You can probably do E standard, E flat, D standard, and drop D on a E standard. I won't even go to drop C. I guess you can, but D is really thereabouts because, once you go lower tunings, you go to thicker strings. It doesn't intonate as well because it's designed to be tuned through E. So that's the constraint of that, my favorite bridge. The consequence then is if I want to go in lower tunings, this is what I like. Also the one piece. So I used to be a big fan of the Tunomatic bridge. But after playing PRS's solution, both the originally intonated and then these one with saddles. And this, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a very special guitar. This is a Tremonti from 2002. A very special guitar. So these bridges are awesome. So you can tune this down. I have a baritone Tremonti. When I say baritone, it's a baritone hybrid, 25.5 in scale, hanging over there. I think you can just about see it. It's on top of the Explorer. That thing is tuned to A, drop A, not A standard, but still. And it's got very nice thick saddles, so you can fit in everything. So that's my favorite on the fixed side of things. I like the single piece more than the Tunomatic. And some people would say, why don't you like hip shot? Because some of you may know that I'm very much a palm muting metal kind of a player. I think it's a matter of habit, honestly. So for me, Tunomatics are just fine, even though Tunomatics have a slightly higher, your palm has to rest a little bit higher versus the low profile of hip shot. But I honestly prefer that. I don't like hip shot hardtails at all, actually. I have something similar to that on my 8 string, which I think we can see behind me. I'm going to just put a close-up over here. It's an 8 string version. You could imagine that in 6 string, that's a hip shot style. But yeah, for me, the single piece PRS style bridge, the best of the lot. Let's talk tremolo bridges, and I have my favorite and least favorite. Actually, that's not fair. My least favorite is the Firebird bridge, the Maestro Vibrola, as they call it. I hate that, though I love the guitar. Let's talk about tremolos. Well, the original tremolo guitar was this Fender Strat. And what you have on the PRS, this bridge that you see over here, is ultimately a variation, or not a variation, but an upgrade, evolution of that bridge. Now, these sort of bridges, I'm going to call them Strat-style bridges, though you can call them PRS bridges, because PRS has its own design. They can be either 2 screw or 6 screw, like this one over here. And for PRS, there are like 3 levels of this bridge. They have evolved this bridge 3 times. So the latest one is called Phase 3. There is a one that you get specially on private stocks where you can lock the saddles. I do not like that bridge, by the way. I like the normal PRS tremolo bridge. Then you have the most famous bridge ever, unfortunately the most maligned bridge, which is the Floyd Rose guitar behind me, and I'm going to show it over here. And then you have the Bigsby. This is more traditional. And what am I missing? Am I missing any other tremolo bridge? Oh yeah, of course, you have the the hip shot maker bridge, a tremolo bridge, which I'm going to show you. I have it on the Mayonnaise. And there are variations of similar. The themes essentially are 2-screw, 6-screw, whether you have a big, what you have in a Bixby is that you have that rotating piece of metal that makes the string vary. Here you have a knife's edge that makes the string vary. The Floyd Rose is even more complex. And then you have a more traditional Strat bridge. Now, my thoughts on these. My favorite by far is the PRS bridge. And the reason it is my favorite is that, and sorry, I forgot one more. The Music Man. Not that it's my favorite, but that's another bridge, another variation. And of course, now I have to mention Nags as well. Sorry, I didn't want to make this too complicated, but the more I remember, there's so much. But I think of all of these bridges, PRS bridge, Music Man bridge, Nags bridge, all of them as evolutions of the Strat bridge, honestly. Though they are not exactly, and I know a lot of you may jump on me, but theoretically you can think of them in that fashion, though technically they're very different. Now going back to my favorite. The PRS bridge is best, in my experience. It's one of the things that converted me to PRS, the PRS tremolo, because I was not a tremolo player, because I was like, couldn't be bothered. I don't want to be bothered with tuning issues, etc. But the thing is, the PRS bridge, because of the way it's designed, it is incredibly stable. And if you know what you're doing, which is if you're adjusting the spring, there are springs inside, which you can adjust the tension on. Very simple to do with a screw. I am the most useless person when it comes to, I can barely change a light bulb. I can't even change a tire, but I can do this. That's how easy it is. You can play around with tuning. So I have PRSs that are tuned with the normal bridge, with the normal scale length. Now they've tuned down all the way to B standard and drop A on a 25 and a 2-point in scale. Of course, you can't just take a bridge the way it is. This guitar is an E standard. You can't suddenly just put it to B standard. The bridge will fall. But with a bit of setup, they are incredibly amazing. And you can always go from a regular tuning to a drop tuning, like an E to a drop D, without too much adjustment needed on the fly for like gigs and stuff. You don't want to swap guitars for going to drop D. So that's why the PRS bridge is best. My second favorite is the Floyd Rose. I have been converted to Floyd Rose after being scared of it for years. And the reason I was scared of it for years was my roommate who had a cheap Floyd Rose, and he used to sweat a lot. So that guitar was just destroyed. Every time you change strings, it was like the entire dorm used to come down to watch it. It was a disaster. But I figured out Floyd Roses are not that difficult, actually. Again, this is the guy who can't change a tire. So Floyd Roses are good, but of course they are a little bit more fiddly than the PRS bridge. You have to deal with the locking nut, etc. So not for the non-involved guitarist, let's just say that. The Bixby is okay, but guys, changing strings on this is just not worth your time. Unless you really like the look of it. I like the look of it as well. But yeah, I think you can get hours of your life back if you know. I know there are easier ways to change Bixby strings as well, but and for the limited range of motion, this is like a 1950s car. If you drive an old car, you try to change gears on that thing, and all the controls, they just feel so outdated versus a modern car. This is kind of what that is. Of course, it has charm, but I don't think I don't need so much charm. I prefer efficiency. And there are designs that just don't work. And the Maestro, which essentially uses a piece of metal that you bend to change the string tension, pitch is just, I don't know. It looks amazing, but no, I don't like that at all. So yeah, those are my favorite bridges. Question number 2, pickups. Okay, so much here. I'm going to give you my experience, and I'm going to try and keep it as simple. Again, you need to know what you want, so it is about the genre of music that you play. And I'm going to talk about humbuckers here because I know very little about single coil. So honestly, my apologies. I should have prefaced the beginning with humbuckers, and especially PAF style humbuckers. In my experience, and this is just my experience, I don't have all of them. I haven't scientifically A/B tested, so take it with a pinch of salt. A good PAF humbucker, whether it is a bare knuckle mule or it is a Gibson custom bucker, which is decent, or it is a PRS 5815 low turn. The low turn is important here. It can pretty much do everything that you want a humbucker to do. The PRS and the bare knuckle will split very nicely. The custom buckers don't split, but it'll do everything. It can play any genre. And in particular, I would say the PRS 5815 LT splits very nicely to do very nice single coil. Not Strat sounds, but good sounds. So honestly, you start off with that, any good humbucker, and I'll get a little bit into the other Gibson humbuckers and the other PRS humbuckers. But one of these three things is honestly everything you want. Now, to be clear, any PRS humbucker, any Gibson humbucker, or any bare knuckle humbucker, generally, a low to medium output one will do exactly everything that I'm saying. You don't specifically need this model. There are subtle differences. To my ears, if you look at PRS pickups, 5815 LTs are the best. 5815s are similar, but a little bit more output, which kind of make them lose the magic to me. 5708s sound too thin to me. Some people love it. 5909s are good. They're a little bit more, what should I say, more rock, more Jimmy Page. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like there's a little bit more of a mid push compared to the 5815s. Upper mids, perhaps. And what other pickups do you have in PRS? I'm talking just PAF style. And the older PRS pickups, the vintage bass, they're nice. Vintage bass is honestly designed for a 24 fret guitar, so it's a little bit too warm to be put on a 22 fret guitar. And then there are a lot others, PRS 5, 6, 7. I'm not going to get into it. I think these cover most of the range that you get. The thing I will say is the core PRS pickups are significantly better than the SE pickups. Significantly better to my ears. Not that the SE pickups can't do the job. I've done this analogy. The core PRS pickup is like a nice single malt, and the SE pickup is like a cheaper bottle of whiskey. That's it. They both get you drunk. Now, getting to the Gibsons, here is where I don't have as much knowledge. I've owned a bunch of them. I'll tell you my impressions. 57 Classics I have not liked. Custom, and again, I found them not very suitable for... They are okay. They leave me uninspired. Again, they kind of feel a little bit more thin to me. This is just me. Again, please don't take this. You may like it. Tastes differ. I'm just giving my opinion. Then there are what other Gibson humbuckers do I have experience with? Honestly, I don't have really. I just have the custom buckers. I have a lot of... I'm talking about PAF style, because I do have 496R, 498T, 500T, but they are not PAFs. So honestly, those are the two I've experienced. Custom buckers and 57 Classics. That's it. So I'm not going to proffer more information. Custom buckers are decent. And they vary as well a little bit. I feel that the custom buckers in my R9, which I just showed you, is different from the custom bucker in my Bonnebird. I prefer the one in the Bonnebird. It sounds amazing. So there's that. And then bare knuckle mules to me are amongst the best pickups, along with the 5815 LT. Can't go wrong with them. I used to have them in the Nags. I shouldn't have sold the pickups together with the guitar, but anyways, such is life. Great pickups as well. Now, why have I spent so much time on PF style humbuckers? Because I think they will do the job. But let me tell you when they will not do the job. They will not do the job if you like the chugs and you like a certain feel to the chugs. This is where we get into the topic of magnets. And what happens is most of the PAFs have Alnico, but you need ceramic magnets for the chugs, especially for the bridge pickup, or rather mostly for the bridge pickup. So which is why, for me, the metal-loving person here, I really prefer ceramic pickups for my bridge. So I'm a little bit like Tremonti in that sense that he likes a low-output neck humbucker, like a PAF style, but he likes a bridge humbucker, which has higher output and has ceramic. And which is why my private stocks that I have spec'd have this high output ceramic pickup. The Tremonti itself. The other pickups I also like for higher output are the PRS metal. I also like the Seymour Duncan Nazgul. It's there on that baby metal 8-string guitar that you see over there, the ESP. I also like what else do I like? Bare knuckle, so many of them. My favorite are the Ragnaroks. They're there on the 8-string behind that you see over there. The Juggernaut is interesting because it's a mix of ceramic and Alnico. And Painkillers are also interesting, but I think Painkillers, which I have on the Baritone Explorer, they're more for lower tunings, honestly. So what I'm saying is ceramic humbuckers are good for you if you like to play metal or you like extra clarity, a little bit more high end, which is useful if you're going lower down in tuning. My friend Zach actually says it very well. El Nico is warm and nice, and ceramic is a little bit picky. It's like ice picky. It's a little harsh, but sometimes you want that harshness depending on the context. So that's the guidance that I would give you when it comes to humbuckers. Don't overthink it. Get a good PAF style. And if you play metal, then get a bridge ceramic humbucker. Now, your taste may vary, but this is what has worked out for me, at least. Another thought that I would just say is ceramic neck humbuckers I do not recommend generally. Some people like it, most notably Alex Lifeson. But to me, it defeats the purpose of a neck humbucker because you lose that warmth and sweetness. So that's just my opinion. Okay, so hopefully this was a good primer into pickups. Lastly, on neck profiles, question number 3. There is so much to say. I think there are many myths here. The first myth is that only one neck profile or a certain kind of neck profile will work for you. And certain neck profiles will hurt your hand, certain neck profiles will do things to you. I think if you're a little bit older, that can be the case. But if you're younger, honestly, what I have found is your hand adapts to any neck. Anything. So what happened with me is I used to play only one neck for 10 years, the Epiphone Les Paul. Then when I first played a PRS neck, it was strange. And then I played other necks, it was even stranger. But over a period of time of changing between guitars, I can literally jump on any neck. So what my purpose of this is not to say that you're going to have the same experience, but if you get a guitar and you're really used to one kind of neck and you're not necessarily liking the neck, give it a bit of time before you move on from this guitar or decide this guitar is not for you. Even with PRS, one of my main PRS guitars, the McCarty 594 that my wife got for me, initially I just did not like that neck because the McCarty 594 has a slightly different, it's a 59 style neck, but it's asymmetric. I did not like that neck. And now the pattern vintage neck, as it's called, is one of my favorites. So give it a bit of time. Now, I'll tell you my personal exceptions to this rule. The first exception to this rule is the Ibanez Wizard necks. And it's a very good reason why. So I have bought multiple guitars with the super thin Ibanez Wizard necks. And what I realized is that I can get used to it, but it requires me to completely adapt my playing style because a neck this thin versus my normal neck, which is a more of 59 style. So most of my guitars, which are in and around where a PRS or a Gibson neck or a Fender neck would typically be, it's not very difficult to adapt to a little bit of round, a little bit of V, sometimes a little flatter. It's not very difficult. I've even found that 7 and 8 string, you can adapt to it very easily, but that's a whole different topic. I'm not getting into 7 and 8 string because there's so much to cover. But what I've specifically found is with Ibanez Wizard, if you're used to it, you will love it. But then you have to adapt significantly to play the large neck, not the normal, but the regular Gibson style neck, and vice versa. So when I bought one Ibanez Prestige, which I really liked, I got used to the neck when I was only playing the guitar. If I only played the Ibanez for a couple of days. And then when I went back to any of my other guitars, then it was a whole learning process all over again. And I started getting a little bit irritated at that because I like to just be able to pick up and play the guitar. So it was too much of an adaptation back and forth. And given I only had one Ibanez with a Wizard neck and I had 20 or 30 guitars at the time with the more regular Gibson style necks, I was like, okay, it's not worth it to me. I'm not going to keep adapting to the Ibanez Wizard neck. And I don't like it too much anyway. So, because I've never I spent the first 10 years of my life not playing something that thin. So that was been the only exception for me. But in general, what I found is much like the human spirit, your hand is quite adaptable, more adaptable than you think. So don't give up on the neck just immediately. Just give it a bit of time. Don't make it an excuse to get a new guitar. Don't make it an excuse to, further other things. Just give a neck shape a bit of time. And it might just work out for you. All right, I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time. Take care.